Hey guys, Andrew, welcome back to the channel. So guys, this was going to be a very different video, but guys, with the Royal Commission and the things that are coming out of it, one of the more controversial suggestions is closing down special schools to end the segregation of people with a disability. But have you guys ever thought about what would happen if we did that? So, what facilities would we be losing in a special school? Because not only do the teachers have specialized experience, there is specialized equipment, therapies, and behavior management plans built into it. Would someone who is severely intellectually disabled, who has a trauma background, who doesn't understand to shut doors, be accepted into a mainstream classroom, even if they have the special education unit? Because I know in Toowoomba, where I live, one of our major state high schools does have a special education unit. And so, guys, this is something where I'm saying about well meaning but ill informed advocates. Sometimes mainstreaming a child is in the best interest of the child, but guys, when is it not? And this is where we're talking about profound complex disabilities. So, someone who has global developmental delay, has ADHD, oppositional defiance disorder, someone who has very low functioning autism, someone who might have shaken baby syndrome, someone who might have Down syndrome, someone who might have Fragile X syndrome. So I'm not talking about the people who are in a wheelchair, who are hard of hearing, or on the blindness spectrum, who can be helped by going to specialised schools where they have sign language built in, where they have braille reading and orientation and mobility training built in. I'm talking about the traditional special school. And it's a really interesting and complex rabbit hole to go down to that even I haven't got to the bottom of. Because we're seeing through COVID, through asthma, through illnesses, that there's, and even the Royal Commission, there's a lot more awareness into what disability is and isn't, chronic health conditions and how chronic health condition can be just as disabling. But people not understanding the day to day reality for family and friends of people with a disability. How much specialised training goes into understanding behaviours of concern, difficult and challenging behaviours, and not infantilising that person. And that's where I understand having the choice to mainstream that child may be the best choice for that child. But the best choice and around choice and control might also be a special school where that person is able to work at their own pace, they're able to have the behaviour support they need. If they need to take a break, they can step outside and they are taught life skills that may need to maintain the job at a supported workplace. Mm, that's the thing that we've got to consider. If someone's going to struggle with activities of daily living, with life skills, and is going to need around the clock care, and is on the list of automatic acceptance for NDIS, why are we having the conversation about closing the special schools when there's a need for them? We're talking about safe spaces and the inclusion of people with a disability. It's great that my town is more accepting of the sunflower lanyard that started with one shopping centre. It's now rolled out to the whole town. That's great. One of the campuses for the special schools is getting revamped. But we all need places where we can be safe. And some of the strategies that we are seeing that are bizarre if you were to use them in a mainstream classroom, but that they are mainstream in a special school. Having to meld them together, I'm sorry, it's not going to work. So we need to be able to have the conversation of, well, where inclusion really matters and where it is safer to have disability specific services. We have safe spaces for the queer community, we have safe spaces for older people, and then the disabled people until quite recently have been left to figure it out on our own. Now we have the support and the footing as adults to make dignified choices, to get out of the aged care homes, out of the nursing home, out of hospitals, out of the group home, out of the psychiatric care facilities. But that takes long term deinstitutionalisation. While I understand that special schools do an amazing job, in fact, I have seen several of the results of special schools, and they do provide a quality education in some cases, in some others, no, they don't. But education starts at home. And so, by exposing both able bodied and disabled people to books, TV, podcasts, YouTube, all learning materials, that's how we can start this conversation around inclusion. And guys, I hate to be the one to say it and be the voice of common sense in the room, but inclusion, like diversity, does have to have limits because of people's needs. And so, if someone is going to struggle to write their name and needs intensive occupational therapy just to even hold a pencil, then being able to sign their name on a document or cut their own meat is going to be a celebration just as worthy as achievement as someone getting all A's on their Year 12 final exams. Yep, they're both achievements in their own right, but we need to put them in context. And that's what matters around the conversation that we're having post Royal Commission. Context and access to services. Because the special schools do provide a vital role in some families' lives in being able to connect with that child, communicate, educate them, and keep them engaged in school. So, guys, I was actually going to do a very different video. I was going to talk about the infantilization, but then I saw over on Google how people are pushing for the closure of special schools. And while I understand where they're coming from, there is a mindset that we just need to accept disabled people into the community. That is great. That is the ideal world. But we don't live in an ideal world. We live in a world where disability is still seen as a bad thing. I have had one of Toowoomba's most prominent pastors, when she was a youth pastor, who is very focused on healing relationships, say straight out to me, as an epileptic, with a person with a brain injury, that I wasn't praying hard enough, and that's why I was having the seizures, that's why I couldn't concentrate, that's why I was having trouble at work. That actively stopped me from going and getting diagnosed and seeking a diagnosis for the ADHD. So that's the mindset that we're fighting up against. We're also fighting up against people who are very woefully misinformed about what disabled people say and think. We're seeing on TikTok comments about what an actually disabled person would think about that. And this is the mindset of, you can see disability, you can see the wheelchair, you can see the guide dog, you can see the mobility aid, you can see the gait. Guys, some disabilities you cannot see until you really get to know that person. There is a thing called masking and hidden disabilities. That's why we need the sunflower lanyard. And guys, this is such a complex debate, and this is where having lived experience come to the table for both families, support workers, and the people with disabilities themselves. And we need to realise that people with disabilities are not a monolith. And guys, I'm going to say the uncomfortable truth and the unpopular opinion here. We can also be the arsehole. We can also be the ones causing trauma. Disability can cause trauma in a person's life, but we can be the ones traumatizing support workers, our family, our friends. And living with a disability is inherently challenging. There are extra challenges, but everyone has challenges in their life. It's called being human. And so when we start to celebrate once someone has overcome those achievements and achieved things, that's when we have that more inclusive world as well. We're also seeing people who are progressively very liberal, so very far left, especially online, who are very well meaning but very undereducated about history. Forget that the first population that was actually systematically destroyed by Nazi Germany was disabled people. And that is where a lot of people, particularly on Reddit and TikTok, are quite ableist in saying that the person should have been aborted or that they're so sorry for that person. If that child is loved, if that family has the support to raise that child, that life is worthy. But I'm not going to judge you for your decision if you can't keep that child or if you know that that child's condition is incompatible with life. I'm not going to judge you. What I am going to judge you for is being incredibly ableist, not acknowledging that disabled people have lives. We have relationships. We can be the arsehole. We can work. We can choose not to work. We can have friends. We can have families. We can have hobbies. We can run exceedingly successful businesses. And that we have a voice. Because for far too long we have been tried to be silent. And this is where the danger of seclusion comes in and segregation. But we have to find a sensible balance between merit and needs based. So, this is the conversations that we need to be having at the moment. And so, guys, let's keep the conversation going. And, guys, should we keep the special schools or should we have special education units? Because the dangers is then if that person is put in a mainstream classroom and they have a individualized education plan, is that plan going to be followed? Are those behaviours of concern going to be documented? Or is that overwhelmed, underpaid teacher not going to document and not follow the plan and have a parent annoyed at the end of the year? Where in a special ed situation, the teachers have got less students, specialised training, and are able to work with support workers, family, and other services as well. So, guys, let's keep this conversation going. And, guys, I hate to ask, but, guys, please, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do, because we're trying to make this channel blow up. So, guys, I will see you guys in the next video.